Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Jeanne Beker needs no introduction.
I'm Jeanne Beker.
She hosted fashion television for nearly 3 decades before the show went off the air in 2012. Becker was also an entertainment reporter who interviewed some of the biggest celebrities in the world, including Madonna.
The sexual nature of the film, is that something that made you want to be involved in the project all the more? It
No.
wouldn't have mattered. That was not.
Absolutely not. Nope. I just like that kind of psychological sort of Hitchcockian drama where mystery, where you can't figure out who did it until the very end. I mean, I love watching those kind of movies.
Becker has a new role these days, and it's very different from her job in fashion and entertainment. I'm Fil Martino. Today on The Big Story, we're talking to 72-year-old Canadian TV personality and author Jeanne Beker, a breast cancer survivor and a patient advocate. Jeanne, thanks for joining me. Can we start with when you were first diagnosed with breast cancer, and how did it feel to hear that diagnosis?
Well, Phil, first of all, I had just celebrated my 70th birthday, and I was feeling fabulous, totally on top of the world, just a picture of health, or I thought, I was just, but I had gone for my routine mammogram, and at that time I was only being called in every 2 years to go for a mammogram, which really wasn't good, but that's what I thought I had to do. So I went in for my mammogram, and I got a call a few days later, and they told me they found a mass. And I was like, a mass? Yeah, it was like 3 centimeters. And I thought, oh, it's probably just a cyst. And they went, no, you really, you've got to come in for a biopsy and an ultrasound, and then an MRI. And anyway, I got a call that, this is what happened. It was just awful. And what can I tell you? I had breast cancer, and I couldn't believe it because I'd always been such a picture of health. And, we also have erroneously been taught, it seems, or at least the common belief is that, if that breast cancer really runs in families. So if your mother or sisters or aunts, never had a history of it, likely you'll be fine. And that is not true, not at all. My mother never had breast cancer, my sister never had breast cancer. And there I was, facing a breast cancer diagnosis. So I was lucky that I went to Princess Margaret Cancer Center, which is such a port in the storm for us. I mean, that is just such an incredible place. I mean, and really saw it as my temple of healing. And as sad about the situation as I was, I really made up my mind that I was going to leave fear on the table and just really live in the light. And I just really felt that God forbid, even if I only had 6 months left to live, I was going to make the most of it, because I love my life way too much to let, fear rob me of my joy. And I was just, I looked at it as an opportunity disguised as an inconvenience. And sure enough, by the end of my journey, I honestly tell you, I felt it had been the most extraordinary year of my life. I learned so much about myself. I mean, I knew that the journey would inevitably make me, a bigger, better, stronger, wiser, bolder, braver person. But I didn't realize just how much I'd learn about myself, and I'd learn about people, human beings, and compassion, really restored my faith in others. And it was quite a journey. But, for all of us breast cancer survivors, or really, cancer survivors of any sort, I really think we live from scan to scan. So, everything's great now. It's all good. And hopefully it will continue to be so. But, every 6 months I get checked now. And, you're always sort of teetering a little on the brink of, neuroses. But thankfully, so far, so good.
Is it common to be diagnosed with breast cancer in your 70s?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, of course, we're hearing more and more women in their 20s and certainly 30s being diagnosed with breast cancer. We always thought, this was a disease that really kind of got you when you were older. But yes, it's very common. And that's why I don't understand, that they at one point had said to me, after the age of 74, you don't have to go for mammograms anymore. Like you're like, what? I mean, the fact is that first of all, we're living longer and we're, in better shape than ever before. I think this generation of 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds are really proving that, the old myths are just, wrong. And we have to stop subscribing to that. And we have to really fight for the attention that we so deserve. And sometimes, we're dismissed because people think, oh, they're getting older. They don't really even, need that kind of care. They certainly don't need that kind of treatment. Again, and it's so not true. I mean, I think every woman, no matter what age, deserves the kind of attention and care and treatment that's available, because there are some great treatments available. And some of them seem pretty aggressive. And some people might think, oh, well, she's too old for that kind of aggressive treatment. And I just say that is so wrong. I mean, we want to get better. We want to live. I mean, and a cancer diagnosis, especially a breast cancer diagnosis, is not a death sentence anymore. I mean, it's really, especially if you catch it early on, it's just incredible that it's not only treatable, but it's curable. So I think we all have to be incredibly vigilant. We all have to advocate for ourselves. And it's not as though, these problems, go away as we age. In fact, they can come on even stronger. And we really just got to take care of ourselves and advocate for ourselves and demand the care and the attention and the support that we so rightly deserve.
Now, can you speak to some of the challenges you faced?
Well, I must say that once I was diagnosed, I mean, it was pretty great. My doctor referred me to a brilliant oncological surgeon at Princess Margaret, Dr. Tulin Sill. She's just so fabulous in the breast clinic there. And then I got a fabulous oncologist, Dr. Aitana Mir, also at the Princess Margaret Breast Clinic. And they really helped me, helped me by the hand and gave me my options, and were very supportive in terms of the choices that I made and the way that I decided I was going to deal with what I was going to deal with. So once I got those doctors and I was in their care, the journey was really quite smooth. But leading up to it, the fact that I was told that I only needed to be checked every 2 years, wrong. The fact that I was never told that I had dense breasts. And if you have dense breasts, and over 40% of women have dense breasts, you cannot just go for one annual mammogram. You have to go for an annual mammogram, and you have to have additional screening in the form of either an ultrasound or, if you can get it, an MRI. That's really important. And, I wasn't told that. Now every woman that gets a mammogram, in Ontario is told what her breast density is. And if it's, there's 4 categories, A, B, C, or D. If you have C or D, you've got to go for additional screening because mammograms often miss these tumors. It's very hard to see them in a mammogram. So, there's just a lot that's really changing in terms of awareness now. And I think people just really have to, do their research and open their eyes and get in touch with various support organizations if they want to learn more. But, it's our health. And if we're not going to attend to it, who is?
Now, some people, they get this cancer diagnosis and they keep it to themselves. They're very private. Other people put it on social media. Other people, want to be advocates. What are you doing with this?
Well, for me, Phil, it was absolutely a necessity for me to get my story out there because I felt I would be a hypocrite if I didn't. My life's always been an open book. I'm a public figure. I do have a platform. I just thought it was really important to share my story. I was brought up to believe that the most important gifts that we can give one another are our own personal stories. I understand why some people are determined to keep their diagnosis private. I totally get that, and I appreciate that. Not everybody, wants to get out there and reveal themselves in that way. But for me, it was the best thing I ever did, because the kind of support and compassion that came back to me, my Instagram account doubled overnight. I got messages and comments from people that were just so heartwarming, and people telling me about their personal stories and what they went through. And suddenly you really don't feel like you're all alone, because it can be, a really lonely journey if you choose to see it that way. So I was just absolutely buoyed by the support that I got from my social media followers, and it truly proved to be the wind beneath my wings.
The Canadian Cancer Society says it's estimated that about 1 in 8 Canadian women will develop breast cancer during their lifetime. Did you ever go through a period where you said, why me?
No.
Why am I 1 in 8?
No, well, no. I mean, I accepted it. I mean, it's okay. If it's going to happen to 1 in 8, why shouldn't it be me? I'm not, as invincible as I felt, as I was telling you, turning 70 and just feeling so fabulous about myself and my life and my career and where I was going. I do realize that, I'm just another human being. And if it can happen to, 1 in 8, like, yeah, well, why shouldn't it be me? I mean, I always felt that, I took care of myself, but I've had a lot of friends who have sadly succumbed to various diseases and have lost their lives, at an age when I thought, there was no way that they could possibly be, leaving the planet at that early age. But, we're only human. So no, I know I hear that story. Some people say, oh, why me? How could this happen? No, that I never, listen, my parents were Holocaust survivors. I was taught from a very young age about what can befall people in this crazy life of ours. And I always felt that, I don't know, maybe I was a little prepared for, what might lurk around the next corner. Not to say that I lived in fear, but I was always planning to, face any challenge with a kind of fearlessness and tenacity. That's the way that I grew up. So, when this came along, I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to prove to myself that I was all those things I always said I was, that I was fearless and I was tenacious. My parents' motto was always don't be afraid and never give up. So I adopted that so wholeheartedly for my cancer journey, and it really served me well.
So what's your advice to women now that you've been through this?
Oh, to really, if you can, first of all, reach out to friends, reach out to, you know, family members. There are so many support groups around that you can find out about. It's really, not necessary to really isolate yourself and deal with this all on your own. I mean, you really have to look to others for help and for support. And that to me was of just a tantamount importance. Um, and really talk to people, like find out about. I'm not saying Google stuff and go down rabbit holes, because that can get very dangerous too. But there's a lot of information out there from reliable sources that you can start talking to people, finding out what it is, what your options are. And if you don't feel that you're being treated properly, make sure you kick and scream a little bit, and as I said, get that attention and that care that we all so rightly deserve. Don't This is not a time to be a shrinking violet. It's a time to really, take the bull by the horns and realize that, you're in a fight here, and just stay in the light. Keep a positive attitude. I mean, I honestly believe that was a huge factor in the way I managed to, get through my journey. You really have to, if you can't change the situation, change your mind, I always say, and start looking at your situation with a kind of optimism that breast cancer is often not only treatable, but it can be curable, especially if detected early. We're living at such an incredible time in history when so much can be done. I mean, even the kind of breast cancer I had, I'm HER2, like triple positive. This was not that any breast cancer is a good kind of breast cancer to have, but the kind of breast cancer I had was 20 odd years ago, that was a really not a good place to be. That was like a really dangerous kind of thing. But then this incredible drug by the name of Herceptin was invented and started to be used in Canada a little over 20 years ago. And that's, I think, partially what helped treat me and cure me. So I'm just always so grateful that we're living at this time in history when so much can be done.
Now, are you taking your story, like, are you doing speaking engagements or are you just kind of answering people's questions on social media? I feel like you're a breast cancer advocate right now.
I'm so passionate about it, Phil, that. But listen, I've always been a public speaker. So this now is part of my story, an important part of my story, just as important as, the designers that I've interviewed and the rock stars that I've brushed shoulders with and all, that crazy, wonderful, glamorous, so-called glamorous career of mine. This cancer journey is an integral part of my life story. So I'm always talking about it, in the mix of all the other stories that I tell when I get up there to speak to groups. I also had a book that came out last October, Heart on My Sleeve. And in a couple of chapters there, I definitely talk about my breast cancer journey. And I think it was just important. It's just part of the fabric now of who I am.
And what's next for you? I mean, you're an author. You had a clothing line, entertainment reporter, fashion editor. You hosted fashion television for almost 3 decades. What's next?
Well, for the past 10 years, I've been doing a fabulous show on TSC, the shopping channel called Style Matters. And I'm thrilled to say that we're launching the season premiere of that show on March the 6th. Again, that's every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. We do this live show where we talk about fashion. We talk to various designers and we give styling tips and we just really have a blast with it. So that's really fun. I mean, that's my sort of regular TV gig these days. I'm writing for magazines and obviously trying to do as many speaking engagements as I'm asked to do because I have a great joy getting up there in front of people. The book tour that I did this past fall was just so rewarding across Canada, getting to meet all the gals that grew up watching me. That was really, really so satisfying. But maybe one of the most exciting things that I'm involved with now is a huge exhibition that will be opening at the Glenbow Museum in Calgary in 2026. That's next year. The museum is currently undergoing a $200 million renovation. So it's just a fabulous museum in downtown Calgary. And when it opens in June of 2026, one of the biggest exhibits it'll be opening with is a retrospective of my career. And I'm co-curating that with a dear old friend of mine, a wonderful Calgary-based designer by the name of Paul Hardy. And it's going to be amazing because it's really going to tell the story of, how a little girl who was a child of immigrants, grew up with stars in her eyes and a lot of big dreams and went out there and kind of made her dreams come true. So hopefully it will inspire a whole new generation of kids who want to dream big and want to go for it. It'll be very, lots of artifacts from my childhood, lots of ephemera, wonderful notes from designers and invitations and backstage passes, video, tons of video, as you can imagine. And some of my fabulous, fashions over the years. I've held on to a lot of stuff. So, I think people will have a great time. It should be very entertaining as well as edifying.
Thank you, Jeanne Beker, Canadian TV personality, author, and breast cancer survivor. That was The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. Thanks for listening.